pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Smurl?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here. There will be a motion this evening to move item 6A to 7th order for a final vote. This ordinance updates the city's open burn policy. Anyone who would like to speak on this piece of legislation may do so in 4th order during citizens' participation.
I make a motion to take from the table file the council number 26, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table file of the council number 62 of 2023. This ordinance is the HUD 2023 Annual Action Plan. It is being taken from the table and placed in 7th order for a final vote. On the question. I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Mr. Voldenberg, would you please dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Third order, 3A, Lackawanna County Planning Commission report reviewed July 13th, 2023. 3B, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held June 21st, 2023. 3C, minutes of the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held June 21st, 2023. 3D, agenda for the non-uniform Municipal Pension meeting held July 19th, 2023. 3E, overtime report for all departments as provided by City Controller, received July 20th, 2023 for the period January through July 2023. 3F, correspondence received July 20th, 2023 from OECD regarding code enforcement report for January through June 2023. 3G, agenda for the Scranton City Planning Commission meeting to be held on July 26th, 2023.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items?
Yes, I just have one comment on item 3E. This is the overtime report from the City Controller. As I said last week, it appears that our June and July overtime from the refuse department has been up. Taking notice of June, it's over $40,000, which, or I'm sorry, as of July, it's over $40,000. So it's definitely an anomaly, as this is $20,000 more than this has been per month over the last 3 years. That's all.
Okay, do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a few of them. There's a couple of events coming up this weekend, and then there's some things going on in August, and we won't be here for the month of August since we'll be on a break. But this weekend will be St. Joe's Center Summer Festival, and that's going to be at Marywood. That'll be Friday through Sunday, Friday 4 to 10, Saturday 4 to 10, then Sunday 12 to 7. And then there will also be the craft fair taking place at NAOG. They're going to start off the morning with a 5K race. You could walk or run with that race. So if you want to sign up, there's still time to be able to do that. They're going to have volleyball. There's going to be a craft fair. So there's going to be activities all day long over at NAOG Park that day. And they're going to have volleyball. There's going to be a craft fair. And On Sunday, August 6th, will be the Waldorf Park German Day, and that's always a great event to look forward to. So if you want to head over for some German food and music and a great time, that's going to be on Sunday, August 6th. It's $8 at the door, children under 12 for free. And there's also going to be, I think it's their first year doing it, but there's going to be a Latino fiesta at Neog Park on Saturday, August 5th, and that's going to be from 12 to 7, and they'll have food vendors there and a lot of things going on then too. That's all that I have.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have one. The second round of the Hometown Heroes banners are going up in North Scranton. There's going to be applications on August 6th. At the VFW on Rockwell Ave from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay, I have a quick one. So all of you know what the Victor Alfieri Society is, or at least most of us from Westside. They're not going to have a luncheon for August, which is unfortunate, but this Thursday, July 27th, from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., they'll have their lunch, which will be chicken parmigiana or pasta and meatballs, or half and half. Price for members, $12. Price for non-members, $14. And that's all I have.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. Well, since this is the last meeting until September 5th, I thought I'd talk about some things going on in August, as Dr. Rothchild did. The Friends of the Scranton Public Library will be holding their next book sale August 28th, which is a Monday, through Sunday, September 3rd. It's at the Marketplace at Steamtown on the second floor. It's a great way to buy books at a reasonable price, $1 or $2. Children's books are as cheap as a quarter, so please keep that in mind. And speaking of events supported by the library, the Children's Library is a great place to take your kids during the summer. A lot of times, people say there's nothing for children to do. Well, let me run down some of the events for August. August 1st, Tuesday, 10:30 a.m., a visit from the Rail Riders. And one of their players will be reading to the children. They ask that you call to let them know you're coming, 348-3000, extension 3015. But if you forget, come anyway, no child will be turned away. Then on Tuesday, August 8th at 6 p.m., here comes a fire truck, a visit from the Scranton Fire Department. And they'll get to explore a real fire engine, and the firemen will share some of their stories and teach the kids how to stay safe. So if you hear the air horn going off, that's the kids playing with it. And on Sunday, August 13th at 2 p.m., they're bringing in a juggler, Rob Smith, with all his amazing tricks. He will juggle 5 balls, clubs, fire torches, rings, and knives. That'll be fun. And then finally, on Wednesday, August 16th at 6 p.m., a visit from the Scranton Police dog, the K-9 unit. And you know how kids love dogs. And the police will talk to them about the things they go through to protect the children and their families. Now, keep in mind that when you want to talk about hometown heroes, police and firefighters are right in the front lines. And it's great that they mix with the children learn to respect and know what these men and women can do for them. So this is a great thing. All of these events are free. Okay? And kudos to the fire department and the police department for participating in events like this. I think it's wonderful. Do we have an update on the police union arbitration? Anything moving on that?
We do not.
Okie dokie. How about the pocket park on Wyoming Avenue? I walk past it every day. I haven't seen much movement.
No, we haven't received an update either on that.
Okay.
Not since the last one.
Yep. But I will say, I was greatly impressed to see in the paper the RFP for the audiovisual services and meeting space enhancement. I assume that means this place? That'll be wonderful. I hope somebody answers the RFP and gets selected, and I hope you can adjust the acoustics, especially for the public caucuses, because we cannot hear you in the back, and that would be great. Scranton considers consultant to address gang issue. I think it's great to be paying attention to issues like this, but I think I would turn to people like the police chief and his officers for guidance on the best way to crack this puzzle. I don't know if consultants are the way to go, or ask Chief Carroll and his people, how do we wrap our arms around this to get ahead of the power curve? I'm sure he would have some great ideas. Thank you. And have a wonderful August, and I hope when you come back on September 5th, you got all the answers, like the status of the audit, the status of the pocket park, the status of the police union arbitration, and all the other events that have been hanging in the wind. Have a great day.
Thank you, Joan. Next up, Norma Jeffries.
Good evening, Council. Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident. And I want to thank Dr. Rothchild for bringing up the activity that's going to be going on at Naog Park on Saturday. But I'd just like to expand a little bit on that because I'm just so well involved with it, with the meetings, okay? I did bring some flyers down to City Hall, and I want to thank you, Frank, for putting the flyers up. And it is a Butterfly Effect Family Fun Day and fundraiser at Naog Park on July 29th. And it starts at 9 o'clock, like Dr. Rothchild said, with the race that starts at 9 o'clock. And there's vendors that are going to be there, and cheering squad, and jugglers and things. So we've been sharing this on Facebook among ourselves and with others. And one of the things that I received back, I received some comments back that they asked me, what did that mean? What did it mean that it was an all-inclusive playground? So, you know, we get into our own little worlds that we don't think that there's others out there that cannot do what we can do, that we take for granted. So I looked it up, and just I'd like to read this to everyone. That an inclusive playground helps children of all backgrounds and abilities feel a sense of belonging by ensuring every child can fully engage with the equipment without limitation. An inclusive playground enriches play for everyone by providing a variety of sensory experiences that children of all ages can enjoy. So we're just looking forward to that on Saturday, to come out. If you see this flyer hanging around the city, you know, just make sure you come up to Naog and help us out. The second thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was the conversation that we've had about the neuter gender restrooms. According to Google, the mandate for neuter gender restrooms is not a federal or state regulation. It is an employer regulation. Therefore, if I am reading this correctly, the change was determined by the administration. I have no issues with the neuter gender restrooms. However, I do have a problem with how it's maintained. And I speak for each of us who use the public restrooms, and raising two sons, we know, and I'm not going to go into the details of that, but raising two sons, we know what that can be, any of us who have had sons. So my thing tonight, rather than the neutral gender restrooms, is the cleanliness of it. The cleanliness that we all have to use those restrooms. So I just ask and think if, as we use them, that we think about others, as we come out of them, that we leave it in a respectable condition so that we all can do what we have to do without having to worry and be disgusted with the restrooms. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about was Dr. Rothchild. Over the past months, references have been made regarding Dr. Rothchild using the title of doctor in her name. Each time it is mentioned, I get such an uneasy feeling. Why would the use of doctor cause such a concern to anyone? When you Google the use of the doctor title, it is quite clear that the use of doctor is permissible. Dr. Rothchild is a doctor of physical therapy, which she has addressed on numerous occasions. At no time has Dr. Rothchild represented herself as anything other than a doctor of physical education, physical therapy. A doctor of physical therapy cannot prescribe medicine or appear to write prescriptions, which Dr. Rothchild has said from her seat. A lot of studying went into Dr. Rothchild obtaining her degree, and under no circumstances would she put herself in jeopardy to use something that was not appropriate. She graduated from the University of Scranton, which is a very accredited school throughout the nation. So why would she put the University of Scranton in jeopardy by using something that's not permitted? And I had to take the opportunity to address this issue. Because as I sit there, I kept thinking, well, then I'm condoning what's being said if I don't say something. If I don't say something, I agree with the people that get up here and pass false information. So I went through and I'm thinking about what does it mean to condone something? Condone something means that I agree with what the person is saying, and I do not agree. So as I looked, I came across this statement by Dr. Martin Luther King, and it said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." I consider Dr. Rothchild a neighbor and a friend, and I could no longer remain silent. So tonight, I'm saying, Dr. Rothchild, congratulations, and you use doctor whenever you want to. Council, enjoy your August off, and Lord willing, we'll all gather again here in September.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you, Norma. Les Spindler?
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Happy to see that this wall was finally painted. So they took the pictures down of all the mayors years ago, and all you saw was the white spots that were filled in. Now I see it's finally painted. It only took I don't know how many years, but it's done. Wanted to be here last week, but I couldn't make it, unfortunately, because I read in the paper, now we hired a firm from Philadelphia to do a study on the park for the pool. Are we that inept in this city that we can't do anything without hiring people to do a study? Can't we just put bids out to hire a pool company and tell them what you want, and they'll put a pool in? Why do we have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on studies like we did on that ridiculous walkability study? So I just don't know why don't we have qualified people in this city that could do stuff like that? It just blows my mind. I mean, we just got out of distressed status, and we're throwing away money like it's growing on trees. It's ridiculous. We're just filling people's pockets with money, and the rest of the people in Scranton are taxed to death. Speaking of the walkability study, 2 weeks ago, Mr. Smurl, you said you don't shop downtown because you're afraid you'll get hit by a car. Well, there's walk and don't walk signs that help you walk across the street. Do you think putting up stop signs is going to make it safer? If you believe that, I have some swampland in Arizona for sale. Next thing, I read the paper last week, it had the paving list, and I was told that North Rebecca Avenue was on that list, but I didn't see it. So is our street going to be paved, or is it going to be paved? No answer?
We'll inquire. We'll double check. Mr. Voldenberg, take care of that, would you please? Thank you.
I will, sir.
Mr. Voldenberg, was that on a separate list?
We had
There
an
were
updated
2
list.
lists available. I'll check them both.
Because my corner, with all the rain we've had lately, it keeps deteriorating more and more, and I keep getting, you can't walk down my front steps, or you'll have wet feet. It's a couple inches on the bottom of my steps every time it rains. And in the winter, I have a skating rink. So if this isn't fixed soon, before you know it, the snow will be flying. I mean, it's ridiculous. All they have to do is, if they don't have to wait till the paving gets done, just temporarily come up and put something there. Well, whatever. That's the way things are done in this city. Next thing, 2 weeks ago, Mr. Argenta spoke about some bridges that are in real disrepair. And the one he spoke about, I go by almost every day because I live in Tripp Park, the railroad bridge on Main Avenue. I brought this up to council years ago. The beams are so old, they're rusted, and there's actually holes rusted through the beams. I brought this up years ago. To me, that doesn't seem safe. You got these bridges that the trains go over. These trains weigh tons and thousands of tons or whatever, and there's holes in the beams. And nothing was done then, so we'll see if anything is done now.
I'll report out in fifth order on that.
Okay. That's all I have, and have a good vacation. Like, as the old song goes, see you in September.
Thank you. Doris Kolaski? Well, we can get one to him. There you go.
Doris Klosky, Scranton resident. All right, I didn't think I'd get here today, so I'm really not too prepared, so bear with me. But one of the things I want to do first, before I forget, is to wish you all a wonderful vacation. Now, second, Nahant Park, there's movies going on up there now for the kids, and most people weren't aware of it, even the direct neighbors and everything. And when I talked to Bob about it today, it is on the board, the flashing sign up there, but he said that was actually the city's project, so I think maybe the city needs to advertise it more and get a schedule out there of which movies and what time and when they're going to be. Okay, the cards I gave you were from a man that I had met on an event I was at with Moms Demand Action it was like a health fair last week, and he was doing the CPR and the Narcan and the defibrillator demonstrations, and I was over there learning from him, and we got to talking, and he lives in West Scranton, I believe, and he's a pool and park consultant, and he does lifeguard he's a certified lifeguard trainer, so, and he's a Scranton resident, so I asked him for his cards to give to you. Okay, now, I couldn't make last week's meeting, but I did watch it on television. And I want to address some of the things, but one of the things I wanted to address, Norma addressed anyway, so I'm just going to put a little bit of a spin on them. First of all, the bathroom situation with the neutral gender bathroom, I almost find it funny, but it's the bathroom out here, it's just a singular bathroom with no urinal or anything, and the door locks, so I don't know what Mr. Bolus was talking about at all, about people waiting outside your stall there. So that's number one. I was just so mad when I was watching it on TV. First of all, again, like Dr. Rothchild, Mr. Bolus is, I'm sorry, I hope he's watching. I'm hoping he's hearing me, because he's not only a bigot, but he's an ill-informed person. Anybody with a doctorate is a doctor. A physician's assistant can't do prescriptions, or can do prescriptions, I'm sorry. A physician's assistant can write prescriptions, and she's not a doctor. I mean, I don't know why he does this every single time he comes, but it just makes me furious. There's doctors of philosophy, there's doctors of religion, there's doctors of physical therapy, and there's doctors that are MDs and ODs. So, and it has no bearing at city council to begin with. Nobody's job has a bearing at city council except their job at city council. So that's number one. The other thing I want to address to him is when he said how he was a Catholic and the University of Scranton was not following the Catholic doctrine, so they should be paying taxes because they have programs for the LGBTQ. Well, thank you, University of Scranton, for keeping your education educational, and thank you for keeping politics and religion separate, because that's what our country was founded on, separation of church and state. And thank you for standing behind our LGBTQ community. And I just want to say to Mr. Bolus, if you're watching, be careful who you hate, because it may turn out to be somebody you love. And thank you, and have a wonderful vacation, and thank you for bearing with me all these whole season.
Thank you, Doris. Okay, Ron Ellman.
Yes, hello, Council. You know, we need more Norma Jeffries. She's always so informative. Like, I didn't know about Miss Rothchild. Congratulations, that's a wonderful achievement. I certainly advocate education. I found a number, if anybody's interested, about the Eagle. If you want to complain or congratulate or anything, the conservation people have a toll-free number, and you can talk for 1 minute. And if anyone would like to write it down, it's 703-358-1980. And I phoned, and I didn't use any bad language or nothing, but I informed him what I thought of the whole situation that happened. Last week, there was some conversation about the refuge trucks coming and going to the landfill and how long it took. One reason they get overloaded is unscrupulous management of properties. Dump all this furniture and bedding and house cleaning on the street for them to pick up. These gentlemen shouldn't have to be liable for all this, instead of the owners of the property renting a dumpster. This week, across from me, a block up, is a ton of stuff sitting on the street. They didn't pick it up today. And around the corner, just like a city block from them, somebody dumped a load of old couches and stuff that been outside someplace for years. It's just trash. I don't know what to do about it, but one thing is the owners of the property just have to clean it up, not the city and the taxpayers. And this seems to be a practice, especially around the college. If I know almost everybody has gone to the hospital or someplace and seen when the students leave, it's bad around there. There's just furniture and junk all over the place. And these property owners should have to do it, not the taxpayers. But that leaves the question, who do you phone when you have a problem? We don't have any code office. We don't have any traffic office. Across the street from my house is a big empty lot where they tore down a house last year, the year before. The weeds are taller than I am. It's a city property. The code officer, I don't guess he ever comes down Main Avenue, Mr. Sunday, except that he manages to see a case of water on my porch, but he doesn't see a load. I'm talking about a load up the street from me. He doesn't see all these abandoned cars around my house that they say they address. He hasn't done nothing about a swimming pool, and there's a lot of little children in my neighborhood. There's nothing around the pool on Trump Street. This junk car been on the street 5 years. 5 years, and it's still sitting there. This is your Mr. Orlowski. The traffic, they need some stop signs along North Main to impede the speeding cars. A man was slaughtered in front of my house. What more proof do you need than that? And
Thank you, Mr.
I hope y'all have a nice vacation. My finances are where I'm not going no place, though. I was invited to Paris and Rome by my ex-boys I used to play golf with. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quickly, would you please give the address to Mr. Voldenberg? I know you brought this up once before, but there's a pool without a fence around it, right? Near you? There's a swimming pool with no fence in the yard around it, correct?
I just can't, I didn't hear all of it.
I'm sorry. So you've mentioned this more than once. You said that near where you live,
Yeah.
there's a swimming pool with no fence around the yard.
Oh, yeah.
So could you please,
I didn't
Schuster seen it.
get the pool.
It's still there.
But the car.
Could you give us-
correct?
I wouldn't complain.
hey, excuse me. No, thank you. I can take care of myself.
My neighbor's full of little kids.
All right, okay. I'm just asking for the address of the home that doesn't have the fence.
All right, thank you.
Can you get that to Mr. Carrera one time, or call when you get it? Thank you. Okay, Dakota Cartier? Okay. Could you please state your name and where do you live?
All right, my name is Dakota Cartier, and I live in Lackawanna County.
No, are you a city resident or?
Oh yeah, I'm a city resident,
Okay.
Scranton.
Thank you.
I came unprepared today. I just found out that this meeting was going on, but the Lord said that there's nothing wrong with wise counsel. So I just wanted to state a couple of things and ask some questions on behalf of the homeless portion of the population out here. So there has been the past couple of weeks some run-ins of officers coming and kicking people off private property, which is private property. I get that, but there have been statements from these officers talking about that there is going to be people that are along the river that live in tents and stuff. They're gonna pretty soon be asked to leave, and they're gonna be given 2 days to go with. And if they don't listen, they're just gonna rip their stuff up and throw it in dumpsters. And my problem with that is that I understand that it's part of the water department's property, and up there is the railroad tracks, and then you have the Heritage Trail and everything. But for the most part, there is not much public property that these people could really go to that they could actually reside at. And the places out here, like that offer help, like CIC and the shelter and like Friends of the Poor and everything, it's just very, very hard when you have only room for 20 people that are men and 6 females, and in the midst of that, you only get 30 days if you're a resident, and then you can't stay there for 90 days, and then these programs that they offer, you have to be homeless for a year and like this and that and the other third, and you don't get in sometimes for 2 years. And they're saying they're offering all this stuff, but then there's such elongated times for help for these people, and there's like no housing. And considering the way that inflation has happened, there's all of this, them losing people with housing because there's not enough funding and everything. And I understand these things are happening, but my biggest question and concern is what do these people do in the midst of this when they honestly really don't have anywhere to go besides down by the river and the resourcefulness of that space that does provide some nature and shelter for people. I was just really wondering, because it's a very big concern, and to put them in places like Lackawanna County, which is overflowed to start with, there's not programs in there. Like once you're homeless, and I personally know, once you're homeless in the system over there, like you will get lost in translation until way down the road they find a spot open somewhere for you. And that's also an overflow with rehabs and everything. There's a lot of overflow with all that right now, and there is a problem going on with people needing the places. So I was just wondering if there's any type of counsel I can get from you guys, of any way to go about this, or if there's any other ways that you guys could help.
So now you listed CIC in the shelter and Friends of the Poor. Are these agencies helping to gain employment, to gain apartments, anything like that?
Well, we have CIC. There's places that are like the Mission and UNC and the Friends of the Poor, and also there's places that they could go to like Outreach and CareerLink and stuff. But even doing the midst of that, it's very, very, very complicated. And I personally know to get employment, maintain yourself, to be hygienically correct and everything, to go and continue your employment, and to also get residency here is kind of hard right now. And there's a lot of help that's needed, and there's not enough help out there for people.
So are these groups and are these services helping to point you in that direction to gain employment, to gain shelter?
No. See, I have employment, and I was in jail for like 11 months, and then they finally got me into a program that only houses about 16 residents, and then the turnover rate on that is all on the person, and when they're able to get out there and everything and move on from there. But the point is these places, these organizations are supposed to be helping in ways, and that's the reason why some homeless people can be treated the way that they're being treated. But also at the same time too, the current fact is that there are a lot of times when people have money to go and do stuff and start paying their first month and stuff and ask for security. There's a lot of, we don't have help with security right now or anything like that. And there's a lot of help that's not being done.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and helping us with awareness, but your time is up. But thank you again.
All right, you asked me a question, that's why I kept going.
That's okay. We've exhausted the sign-in sheet. Would anyone else like to speak? One of you can, yeah.
Yeah, so my name, I gotta back up a little. I'm getting to that. My name is Ant Marquise. I'm a local musician as well as a community activist. I've worked with all different kinds of organizations. I've worked with the NAACP. I've attended many different city council meetings all over Luzerne County to, discuss issues within the community, within the county. I know this is Lackawanna County, but
Excuse me, are you a resident of Scranton, though? Or?
yes, I am.
Okay,
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that, sir. I'm getting to that, sir. So what I'm speaking on as far as Lackawanna County, I came here to back up my buddy to Dakota, because what he's saying is true. The police officers on the streets, they treat us like we're nothing. You understand? They're very disrespectful. That's one thing I'm gonna say. They're very disrespectful. They don't want to hear us out. When they look at us, they judge us. But this is what I want to do. I want to bring some. Am I too loud? Can I back up a little bit? Because I feel like my voice is like so loud.
Normally it's an issue, but today it isn't with you, acoustics. But
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm here just to bring some solutions. You understand? Where it starts is with the police officers and everybody judging us. That starts with us having problems, like addiction problems and stuff like that. That's part of the main reason, and Dakota could probably vouch for this. That's part of the main reason why they're kicking us out of the pavilion. But if we had a rehabilitation center in this city, not traveling an hour away, not traveling 2 hours away. You understand? If we have rehabilitation in this city, that will help these homeless people get clean. That's part of the solution. 2, we need more space in the shelter. You understand what I'm saying? There's not enough space in that shelter. You got like 10, 15 men all sleeping on top of each other. So that's a problem in itself too. But this problem is outside of Lackawanna County. This problem is it's a part of the problem in the country. This is a part of the problem in the country because people are moving from ghetto areas like New York, New Jersey, Philly, and they're coming into cities like this trying to escape poverty. But then when we come here, we walk right back into it. You wanna know why? Because they keep trying to tell us that we ain't got enough resources. We ain't got this, we ain't got that. Well, listen to the people, because the people are the ones who have the solutions to bring more resources. You understand? And don't judge a book by its cover, because the messenger, and it says this in the Bible, the messenger, God can use anybody. God can use a homeless man off the streets. I'm homeless right now. You understand? But I have a lot of influence. So another thing I want to say is I've been and I'm not making this about myself, but just to let you guys know that I'm serious about my work. I've been all on the news stations. I've been all in the newspapers. So I'm very well known within the Luzerne County. You understand? Because I voice my opinion very well. Now, I can help get some resources out here, but I need you guys to work with me as the city council to make it happen for these people. Because what's going to happen is, if you guys don't listen to the homeless people, it's not just going to be 3 homeless people in this crowd. It's going to be like dozens of us coming up here to city council. And a lot of them are angry and upset. You want to know why? Because the police officers have no respect for them. And they fed up, I'm telling you. So I'm just here to spread light on that and bring some solutions. If you guys ever want to contact me and we work together, we could talk after the city council, but that's all I got to say.
thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
I'm Elaine Sporgo, and I'm a Scranton resident. In 2019, both the city of Scranton and Lackawanna County, McAndrew Park closed their pools. About 2 weeks ago, McAndrew Park opened their new splash pad I was to see it. It's very impressive. It's more of the type that's at Montage Mountain. It has a lot of, different things that dump water. And in a couple of weeks, they're going to open their pool. City of Scranton wants to do another study when they've done one just like a year ago, and they have done nothing to replace their pool. And I want to know why the city is not using the ARPA funding, the rescue plan funding, for a pool at Neog. I saw in the paper today that they're using some of that funding to resurface playgrounds at several different playgrounds in the city. So why, maybe Mr. Smurl can answer, why is it not using the ARPA funding for the Neog pool? I'm asking.
You're asking me why they're not using ARPA money for the pool? What we were told in the beginning was the low-income areas, they consider Neog Park a high-income area, so it wasn't supposed to be spent into that. But the pool is being funded in different ways, so the pool is happening. It's just not using ARPA money. Although we do have access to ARPA money, we can, council as a group can take $7 million if you want and put it right in the Neog pool tomorrow. But why would we do that when we have funding available to us to take a different path and use that money for something else?
Well, I can't believe that they are going to be considered a high income when the entire city is like 23 or something like that percentage in poverty. You're going by the whole city.
Elaine, I'll answer your question. So we were initially told by administration that ARPA funds could not be used out of the lost revenue track to fund the pool. All right, we were told that. But then when ARPA came in, Answer came in, the group that handles, I asked that question, could we have used, and they told me yes. So we could have used it, we were just told we couldn't. That's to simply answer your question.
So why are you not using it? Is all those 63 million gone? Because I've only seen a few million listed in the projects that were described as being funded and so forth.
Well, that's not all the money's gone, no. But to simply answer your question, we could have used it. We were told we couldn't.
I think to speak and maybe bridge the gap. I think to bridge the gap between Mr. McAndrew and Mr. Smurl is funds have been earmarked for certain projects. They had to be earmarked by a certain deadline. There was a little bit of confusion in the beginning, but like Mr. McAndrew said, but also like Mr. Smurl said, there is a possibility for us to use that. So it is something that's still on the table.
Okay, that's good. The other thing sort of follows up in the last two speakers. And like I've been doing some research on what the ARPA funding could be used for, and one of the things was for affordable housing. And I don't know if you've been following any of the housing listings, but in about the past 2 or 3 years, the prices of property have gone up about 50% in the city. And now that the city is finally doing their tax reassessment, I'm concerned that more people especially older people, are going to get pushed out of their property. And the city has like no, really like low income. It has, like public housing, but the city, as opposed to like other cities have, say, condos, it's kind of a step between apartments and a house. And they're generally like more affordable than houses are. The city has really no, there's a few, I guess like 2 places in the entire city that has condos. And you see a lot of developers now that are putting what they call luxury apartments, remaking like buildings downtown or like the Parodi building. They call it luxury apartments, really just a regular apartment with a granite countertop, and they call it luxury apartments. But they're like very expensive apartments, and the city has like no...
Thank you, Elaine.
Really no middle ground. Okay, well, I just want to know if that's being addressed in any way. Is any of the funding being considered for affordable housing? Is that even an issue that the city has considered?
There are various housing programs through the Office of Economic and Community Development, and then we've also partnered with NeighborWorks, so there's some programs through them too. There's first buyer home programs. There's programs out there for older adults looking to rehab their houses. So there are various programs, but we do need to do a better job of creating more affordable housing in the city because it is definitely a problem.
And especially with the way that the prices have gone up. Well, thank you very much for your time.
I think another thing would be to upkeep some of the homes that and rental properties that are already out there as well.
One more time, I'd ask you, would the city plans to do anything about the seniors that are going to have their price of property taxes shoot up? The city has claimed when they were finally approved, I'm not sure if it's actually the city or the county that approved it, but to do the tax reassessments, that they said they're going to have programs to help seniors stay in their homes, but I have not heard anything on any programs being developed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Well, as we near our little month-long break here, I wanted to take a look back, and I'm slightly concerned when I take a look at things like 8B, the overtime reporting, how a good thing gets moved forward, then it goes into the back room where there's an executive session and a discussion between the administration and this body, and then it sits there and it dies because someone in a decision-making meeting that wasn't open to the public decided that for whatever reason, it's not to move forward. I don't understand that. Usually when there's a meeting that's for decisions, it's supposed to be public. It's not supposed to be secret and hidden. We're supposed to hear it and understand how it impacts the city. I don't know why overtime is such a big thing that we need to hide and not document overtime like that's a good thing. Now moving on to 6A, the legislation on burning. I've looked at it, I've reviewed it. Beforehand, we had Dr. Rothchild step forward when this came forward and said she understands why this shouldn't be because protests are organic in nature. They happen. They don't have 2 days advance notice. Mr. McAndrew stepped forward and said he remembers a time in the 60s when burning bras were part of the national protest for women's rights. Back when our country was first set out, the British flag was burned as part of our independence and the birth of our country. You may not like burning flags or burning objects in protest, but there's a long history of them being allowed. But there's also a conflict with restrictions on how that can be done and restrictions on First Amendment rights of having to step up beforehand and be allowed by a government to have your First Amendment right. I also call forth that about a month ago there was a mention of this in an executive session. 2022 CV 101172 was brought up on record. There was an executive session because of a legal issue with burning, with the burn ordinance. Well, burn ordinance, I went over to the Globe store, the old Globe store, and checked in civil and I could not find it. Well, the reason I couldn't find it because it wasn't to deal with the burn ordinance. It was in federal court to deal with the flag burning that happened in front of the courthouse. For some reason, this has been hidden and put away, And it seems that the law department is putting forth laws rather than city council. The executive session is usually done because there's something in process. Well, the case that was in mention was withdrawn on 3/16 of 2003 by the parties. So this is not a court settlement. This is an agreement behind doors here at City Hall. I don't know the full scope of it or the pressure on it, but this, after being voted down, not only has it come back up, but for some reason tonight here, it's even fast-tracked to keep people from looking at it. There's absolutely no reason to fast-track it other than it doesn't want to be under observation. I went down to the federal court and I pulled the documentation from the courthouse, from the federal building. I understand this gentleman has done this in a number of different communities with burning Trump flags or other protests and has updated the laws. Has this body had a chance to intervene in the laws, to look at what was created? Has our city council's legal staff, did he have interactions in this to design this law that comes before the body? It smells of a backroom deal, and I'm not really sure an executive session for a case that was already withdrawn was even proper. Something's wrong with this right from ground zero. And when it goes through tonight, it's going to be an unfortunate thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Virgil Argenta. $70 million. Imagine what we can do in each individual neighborhood by developing neighborhood impact teams where every neighborhood is represented as to the needs of their specific neighborhood. $70 million. Imagine the difference that we could make with $70 million if it was spent properly. Imagine $70 million. Imagine if we had representatives from the fire, police, code enforcement departments come into each neighborhood and make educated decisions, with each neighborhood deciding what desperately needs to be done to improve the neighborhood and maintain our property value. Imagine. Imagine what could be done. Imagine if rather than one person making decisions on how to spend money, it was the city as a whole working together. Imagine if we put the money to good use. Look at the city of Pittston. Every single dime that they acquire is invested into their city, and the city shows. There are no two-page mayor spreads in their local newspaper. Their mayor needs no publicity. His work speaks for itself. Imagine what would happen in Scranton if Scranton did that. $70 million. Imagine what we could do. Look at Mr. John Basiligo, what he's doing with his own money. Every property that he touches enhances the neighborhood and enhances the city. Imagine where he would direct revitalization. $70 million. What if we did that in every neighborhood with just $70 million? Imagine if every citizen in Scranton had the ability to state what was wrong in their neighborhood and ways they thought we could change and make improvements in their individual neighborhoods where they pay taxes, the investors in the city. Imagine. Imagine if politics did not come into play. Imagine what a difference we could make in Scranton. From someone who was actually born and raised here and actually cares about the city, where it heads in the future. Imagine what we could do with that $70 million. Just imagine. Imagine $1 million if it wasn't spent to tell us how to run the DPW. Imagine. Imagine if people actually did their jobs and were competent people, and we hired competent people to head up each department. Imagine that. $70 million was put to good use as opposed to being squandered away by that one person. Imagine not worrying about which flag to fly or what to do with bathrooms and who to use them. Imagine if you made decisions and you fought to change things that would be here for a lifetime. Instead, in Scranton, we have 3 council people that are single-handedly destroying this city. You're a different branch of government. You're doing someone else's agenda. For example, the parking garage for Geisinger. Imagine if you 3 made hard decisions to not follow someone else's agenda, and you actually made the tough decisions for the generations to come in the city of Scranton. Imagine that. How are we making out with the Porta Labs down at Weston Field? Do we have Porta Sinks yet? And are any of those bathrooms, Porta Labs, are they neutral gender? How about the bridge report? Do we have a bridge report yet? Thank you.
Sorry,
Do we have,
Virgil, I'll speak to that in fifth order.
appreciate that. Do we have Porta Labs for the Porta Labs, the Porta Sinks for the Porta Labs at Weston? And whatever happened to shower before you enter the pool and shower after you leave the pool? Can we do that at Weston Field? I'll give you these pictures real quick.
Thank you.
This happens to be the park at the North Scranton Little League, that after today's article, it would have you think that it was a Taj Mahal and the jewel of the city. There has been no work done on that park for the last 2 months. And the permit says $27,400. The article in the paper says it was $40,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Marie Schumacher, East Mountain of Scranton. Got a couple of things to think about over the other month off. The Serenity place. We don't have any feedback on what's really happening there, and I think we should. Now, I know Mr. McAndrew, you were up there in January when they were getting, what was it, a immersive simulation system.
I was not.
Oh, okay. The paper said you were. It was Milo, multiple interactive learning objective. But anyway, that was to come in, and it said the training system would be available for other police agencies in the region as well, and that was by the police chief. And earlier, the mayor has said what was in support of the Serenity, that it would be open for the area, and a lot of activity there was going to be seen. And there would even be some revenue. Now, have we had any revenue come in for what's done at Serenity?
That I don't know of. There is, was it 3 weeks ago? I asked for an update on the Serenity Center. I know in the capital budget there's either $250,000 or $350,000 that should be spent there or allocated to be spent there in the 2023 year. So if we could ask for someone to come in, it's been quite some time since we got an update on that. The last time someone was here in person, I feel like Eileen Cipriani let us know that some of the grant funding had stalled, and that's my last recollection. So it's about time that we do hear an update on Serenity.
I think it should be on a regular basis. We shouldn't have to request from this podium. Okay, and then stormwater. Are we just kicking that can downstream again? Or do we have a goal for when we are going to actually do something about stormwater? Or wait for an authority to be made with other communities?
Well, we had an update. I think you were here. And we're waiting for the other municipalities to either get on board or not before we move forward. with the
Is there a
authority.
deadline for that? So we can
I'm not aware of the
move
deadline.
forward?
We'll get you the deadline. We'll try to find that for you.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Voldenberg, check on that, would you please?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And I thought too on the 3E, what kind of action is going to be taken by what's on the overtime? And who's in charge of doing that? Is it the administration?
Now, if it's the overtime that I spoke of, it would be the refuse coordinator who would be in charge of that overtime. That's the meeting that we've been looking forward to get an update on how that's going. As you can see, those overtime costs monthly are going up. So
Yes.
there's definitely some changes that have occurred there, and I'm very curious to hear what's going on.
So are a lot of taxpayers, yes. And the Harrison Avenue Bridge area, I believe it's another government agency that has that from the time when you're going east on there between the first building and the bridge. It's very frequently well over the 6 inches of being cut. And whose responsibility is that, and
PennDOT.
why is that allowed? And then, Joe Schmo in their home gets a ticket for having lawn over 6 inches.
That's PennDOT's responsibility, and I've brought that forward to them numerous times. It's supposed to be on their regular maintenance list. However, we usually have to put forward a complaint before it'll get cleared out, and then it takes some time for them to do that.
Wow.
So I did notice as well that it's creeping up again. So we will reach out to them again to get out there to clear it.
And what about that building, the first building when you're going to the east? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm out of time.
Yeah, that first building I know that you're talking about. There was a condemnation of one of the apartments in that building, not the entire building, but I think that since has been rectified or reversed because the signage is no longer posted. But if you
Okay, thank you. I just like to say, I think enforcement, we've got to start doing enforcement on the codes. That wall down in front of the Radisson, which looked like it was going to fall into the street, of course did, because nothing was done about it. And now we've lost part of a lane down there on one of the main streets. I don't know. Enforcement has to be given more just time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dawson, Scranton. Last week, I saw a little light coming from up there, Mr. Smurl. I did appreciate the fact that you pointed out that homeless people are people. And we have a lot of problems in our country. Our jobs were handed out years ago, and most of the politicians address it, but not everybody can be a rocket scientist or an aviation engineer or whatever. So that being said, I was a union steward over 250 people. And when I see somebody that's homeless, I start thinking, gee, that looks a lot like somebody whose job was just handed out years ago with an excuse like you can go to school or do something. Who pays the bills while you go to school? We really need to pay more attention to fellow Americans and bring them up. Dr. Rothchild, I sympathize with you with a lot of the guff you take. I would have my head examined if I started getting obsessed with how to go to the bathroom. I mean, that's possibly a sign of onset dementia. And anyway, minimum wage. You're never going to get $15 an hour minimum wage in the near future. But I know people, I see people walking to work at stores that I shop with up in Southside. And the one person I talked to, she's 42 years old, she's a widow. They gave her a whole quarter, so she makes $7.50 an hour now. Things are really looking up. You know, it's just amazing. The reason these people are walking to work is because they're 23 years old and they might have to borrow mom or dad's car just to get there. And mom or dad might need their car. They're still living at home. They can't get their life started, can't get married, can't afford housing. And it's just one big problem. Anyway, our railroad out in Bradford County, there's an LPG plant compressing gas to liquid petroleum gas. Its permit has been renewed. In about 3 years, you might have 100 cars. Each 12 cars is the same explosive force as the Hiroshima bomb. And we also have smaller cars shipped past the U to Tobyhanna. I've seen them up there on one of my rail excursions. And to get down to the new downtown, I don't see it as a working situation. It's just, I have read and reread the articles in the paper, and I might attend a meeting, but it would be just to critique it. I think we should have more stop signs and stoplights like we have up. And last week I went to Jefferson Avenue via Linden Street, and I sat there for a little while at a red light, and then the walk sign came on. And it's no left turn, or no turn on red. It's a right turn that you can make. Sorry about that. But people need more time to get across the street. There's 3 people that I know have lost their lives at Wyoming and Lackawanna, and they all may have been buses that hit them. And if you really think of driving a bus with all those doors in the way and the A-pillar in the way and the visibility, you're up off the road, so you won't see some little short person trying to sneak across there. So hopefully we'll abandon that plan. And thank you and have a good night and a nice little vacation.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, anybody else?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any motions or comments?
Just one comment. This weekend, we had a crew downtown. We were cleaning the downtown up. And Mr. Voldenberg, I forgot to forward this to you. On the courthouse square, they put all their garbage out. I believe the people told me they put it out on Friday, but it's not picked up on Monday. Will you inquire and see if that's true? And if they can, maybe put it out on a Monday, because it winds up all over the courthouse.
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Is that all? Okay. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
I do have a few. I have 2 addresses, if I can give you, Frank, to send over to code enforcement. It's the rear 835 Beach Street is one, and the other one is 539, 541 North Garfield. And I could send you some more details on those later on tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I planned on speaking to this one in 7th order. However, today At 3:47, I got a response to my request from last week. So we do have a study on the agenda tonight in seventh order for final passage. It's give or take $70,000 study. This was taken from some money that was dedicated towards mental health originally. I would have liked to have seen that money going into the mental health area as it was originally allocated for. But what I found out through the backup information was that this company had done a similar study the previous year. In August of '22, this study was presented to the city, and I made a request if I could see this study. It took some time to get back to me. The administration actually spoke to the newspaper several times rather than responding to my request. But I did get an answer today at 3:47, and it stated that in the best interest of public safety, the Muflahan report is available for viewing at City Hall by a member of City Council upon request. Please call the City Law Department to arrange for a review of the same during the same business hours, and it gave a phone number for me to call to review the document. I would like to make a motion tonight that the City Law Department release a copy of the Muflahan Initial Assessment Report from August of '22. If I could get a second on that.
Second.
So this would be a motion for the Law Department to release a copy of this report to City Council.
All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Thank you. The next, sorry.
2-2, motion passes. Oh, no, 3, sorry, never mind.
3-2 passes.
Just hoping, I guess. All right. Anything else?
Yes, so I also had a request in. There was a group, breadbasket of NEPA, that received, according to the controller's report, they received a piece of money that was allocated to community centers. So to start, there's several community centers located in and around Scranton, well, in Scranton. These centers are city properties that are run by volunteer groups and neighborhood associations. These groups in turn maintain that city property. So the work that they do on these properties is work that city employees don't have to do, and it's a service for the city. So I commend anyone that's part of a neighborhood association or anyone that helps to maintain a community center in the city. Last week, when inquiring about this allocation, a nonprofit received money from the community center line item in the 2023 budget. So this funding was intended to assist community centers with building repairs and other needs that they had. Although this group does provide a service, I do think it's a mistake that we've been redirecting this money. OECD has redirected this money away from community centers and possibly their operating expenditures. So last week I did ask for a request of the justification for this. I just received the MOU with the group. So Frank, could we send out another request for justification of why a nonprofit was given money from the community center line item? Thank you very much. That is all.
Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a few. Once again, this week we've been receiving complaints about the garbage pickup being off or people not receiving the pickup. And last we'd inquired about it. They've been told that they were aware of the issue and fixing it, but it doesn't seem to be fixed just yet. So I still have concerns, and so there's the thought that this might have to do with the Rubicon implementation, and I understand with implementation of new programs that there can be some growing pains associated with that and errors and things that need to be corrected, but it's like the same streets that are still not being picked up, and that's what I'm not understanding, why it's not corrected yet. So we received another email about 1700, 1800, and 19 blocks of Clearview Street. And then I know Councilman Smurl also mentioned some of the garbage that was not picked up. And then there were other places today that I saw that hadn't been picked up yet, like driving along Music Street. So just would like to get a better update of what's happening with the garbage pickup and, why streets are being missed still, and if that's going to become timely again, because we're not back until September. Supposedly Rubicon is going to be coming in at that point, but I would like to not wait until then for this to be resolved.
I'll inquire, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And I'd also received a complaint from 733 Brook Street, and it was someone who had received a violation letter of something on their property, and they had some questions about the letter and the complaint, and they contacted a couple different people in code enforcement. They still have not received a response. So I'm going to forward that email because I'd like to get them a response so it could be clarified on the issue at hand.
I'll clarify that.
They also did mention that when they went to the website, to the appeals page, that the link was broken for it and not working. So if we could have IT work on repairing that link so people could properly access the appeals.
I will.
Thank you. And Councilman Smurl and I both met with Chief Carroll earlier, and we had a good conversation, a good starting point to address the issue of the homeless population within the city of Scranton. And I certainly do feel for the people who are homeless, and we're not unique in this problem in our city. It's a problem throughout the country, and I don't know that anyone has figured out the best way to solve it, but it doesn't mean that we can't do anything either. I do certainly agree that the police should be respectful of people when in the community and the homeless community. Chief Carroll did assure us that they are being respectful and handling it in the best possible way, and that they're not targeting people, but that they are just working to address when crimes or complaints are brought to them. And like drug prevention and trespassing if people are on private property. So those issues they are working to address, and not, they're not going to just kick people out of their tents or take away their things. So that was what we were informed of earlier. And so I hope that, is what continues to happen moving forward. And I know that we are pretty limited in the shelters and some of the resources that we have. So I do agree that we need more shelters and we need more opportunities to help get people out of being homeless, and interested in seeing what way we could help as a city to do that. I don't have a clear answer on that tonight or the best solution for it, but it is certainly a priority of mine, and I really appreciate the people who came here tonight to voice their concerns. Thank you.
Okay, well, Mr. King is on the phone. Mr. King, I'm going to be reading his responses that he normally does in fifth order because it's just going to be a lot easier. But in addition to that, Mr. King, do you have any comments that you would like to say or motions?
No, nothing at this time. I appreciate you making comments for me.
No problem. So, no problem, Billy. All right, so these are answers to questions that were posed last week or the week before. So for Joan Hodawan, it's regarding the $1,500 professional services expenditure for the law department. Deputy Solicitor Andrew Catullo was reimbursed for membership in the Public Rights Project Affirmative Leaders Fellowship 2023. This is an approved expense per the city controller. Okay? Then, council meeting on July 18, Mr. Leonard Sebro of North Dewey Avenue visited council chambers again and voiced his concerns related to the flooding to his neighboring properties during heavy rains. He advised that the flooding is now worsened due to additional runoff. He had great praise for Steve Tiemann and his crew at DBW that visit the property that cleared the drainage. He emphasized that this is quick, and though action by Steve and team was the first time in over 10 years that the city had worked open the pipe completely. So, well, it hasn't been 10 years because we got a response. DPW has done a lot of work with this section. A DPW employee has met with the resident and has pictures and a map of the potential issue. DPW has plans to camera the lines this weekend, 7/28, to pinpoint the elbow that was installed without engineering approval. Once DPW can locate the position of the issue, DPW can recommend a permanent fix. DPW and engineering will need to determine whose property the elbow is located on and acquire the proper permits and engineering for the fix. So that's an answer to that one. Mrs. Schumacher, she had concerns about the City Hall front steps repair project. So this project is slated to go out to bid before July ends. So to answer your question. The concrete barrier at Biden Street interchange, following up with PennDOT for a date when the concrete barrier at Jefferson Avenue and Biden Street will be updated. The interchange is presently one lane due to the mural update project taking place this week. Meadowbrook Flood Project. So council asked per resident's request for an update on the RP for legal appraisal services related to securing the property of 44 right-of-way agreements. So the answer we received was proposals from prospective vendors have been submitted. No contract has been awarded yet. Mr. Virgil Argenta on the Theodore Street Railway Bridge. Riley Associates, the city engineer, advised, the PennDOT District Bridge Engineer has advised they're working with Norfolk Southern Regional Railway Bridge Supervisor, and they completed a bridge condition assessment and an action plan for the span. So we're waiting to hear on that. May the public schedule a tour of the public safety building at Sorrenti Center. Council is awaiting an answer and specifics from the fire chief. Somebody asked about trash pickup at the St. Anne's Novena. DPW confirmed that there is no trash pickup by the department for St. Anne's Street Novena. So it's actually, they have a private hauler. The DPW is not picking up their garbage, just so someone asked about that. Scranton Police Department staff and Council President Bill King asked if the SPD may confirm that adequate staffing levels are evident of the police force. Has SPD been short-staffed at any time in the recent past? The question was posed by a city resident. The response is the City of Scranton Police Department has had and continues to have adequate shift staffing. Westonfield Bathhouse. Council has asked if OECD department is to advise status on the repair project proposed for Westernfield Bathhouse, recently inspected for the deterioration realized at the building. Parks and Recs have referred all questions to OECD. So the response we got is a comprehensive Westernfield strategy is being developed. Code enforcement inspections and revenue. Open Gov report for code enforcement is in third order on this evening's meeting agenda. List of city vehicles. The city resident, Mr. Virgil Argenta, asked council for a listing of all city-owned vehicles. As previously shared, please have Mr. Argenta, this is the response we got, have Mr. Argenta complete a right-to-know request for this information. Well, we talked about this earlier, Mr. Voldenberg. Even though Mr. Argenta asked for it, and I get that he might have, a resident has to do a right to know, but in turn, President King asked for the list. So he doesn't need a right to know. So could you remind the legal department that request came from the president?
I'll revisit it tomorrow.
Thank you. Any additional questions posed by Mr. Argenta are pending a response from the city administration? John Thomas, the former Plotkin building. The Plotkin building on Penn Avenue and Linden Street was sold to DFM Incorporated in 2022 for $425,000. No plans are in process at present. However, Mr. Don Mamino of DFM Properties advised he would like to develop a mixed use of shops and apartments for that property. So that's an answer to that question. Code enforcement electric vehicle fleet. Councilman Tom Schuster asked the following questions. Has any maintenance been necessary at the electric vehicles to date? How long does an average battery charge last on the vehicles based on their performance to date? Our response from administration was the electric vehicles have not required maintenance. Charges last approximately 2 weeks or 200 to 250 miles. Last week, this was my request. Councilman Mark McAndrew asked per residents, requested the administration please advise an update from OECD and city engineer on the rehabilitation of Oakmont Park as it relates to the recently approved contract. Mr. McAndrew stated the neighbors to the park were advised that the work would start this summer. Please be advised, the answer we got, that the playground equipment is ordered for Oakmont and engineer is completing project design. The project was tentatively scheduled for fall installation, pending equipment delivery. General contractor's contract has not been awarded for this park. North Washington Avenue rescind permit parking on the block. The petition to rescind permit parking in the 1300 block of North Washington Avenue was mailed. The petitioner will visit all households on the block for signatures. The subsequent study will be handled by the Scranton Police Department Traffic Division. Okay, 6B, intergovernmental agreement of cooperation with the city and the Scranton School District. Councilman Mark McAndrew had an additional question on this legislation, asking into which entity pension plan the employee would be enrolled in. So the employee will be enrolled in the city pension plan instead of the district's. All right, so this is also speaking to what Mr. Schuster said. So the MUFLA initial assessment report of 2022, August of 2022, that you requested over a week ago, right? Your email is from July 18th, actually. So the response that we got from a councilman asked to see this, wants us to vote on another study, but won't show us the study from last year. This is absurd. Absurd. So what you have to do is, in the best interest of public safety, the MUFLA report is available for viewing at City Hall by a member of City Council upon request. Please call the City Law Department, blah, 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 blah. So we got this while everybody's on the way to the meeting, with nobody in the building to view it before we take a final vote. That sounds like it's intentional to me. Sorry. All right, Rubicon. Council President Bill King and Council respectfully ask that administration please include Council on the response to Controller Murray's queries related to the contract with Rubicon. Email is attached to assist. The administration has received this request and will respond in the near future. So another waiting game there. So all I have to report out is, and it's some good news and bad news for the people at Western Field that swim there. It's unfortunate. So when the new parks director was introduced as a hire or to be voted on for us, they wanted a waiver for him. We said no. Well, I did. No, I think we all did that because he promised to move in the city, whatever. But between the first vote and the second final vote, I asked the question, because this was concerns for the lovely ladies that swim there and don't get consistent hours there because of the lack of lifeguards. So I posed the question to the new parks director, and it's in an email, and I have it here. And the question was, well, you get certified too, because your office is there. So in the winter months, when we lose all the students that are lifeguards, if there's any interruption with that, maybe you can fill in. And he said, I'll be getting certified to become a lifeguard. This will occur when my lifeguards all become certified. I will be taking the course with them. The date is to be determined, but should be within the next 2 weeks. That was in June, all right? So I'm happy. The good news is they have 25 certified lifeguards through this program, and 4 of them are still in process. So, but like I said, we're going to lose half of them or more than, we lose almost all of them when these students go back to school. The bad news is, when we asked this question again last week, the new parks director says, no, he will not be getting certified. he is going to focus on the parks. So I took him on his word. That's why I gave him a final vote, but it's unfortunate, and I'm very upset about that. And that is all I have.
5B, no business at this time. Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, filed to Council Number 80, 2023, an ordinance amending the city's open burn prohibition to explicitly allow an exception for public demonstration under certain conditions.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, I did some research on this, and I read where the United States Supreme Court had ruled that flag burning constitutes a form of symbolic speech that is protected by our First Amendment. I don't agree with that, but that's their ruling. I would not ever burn a flag, but if we do not amend this ordinance to comply with the Supreme Court ruling, it could put the city and our residents, we can be liable for a lawsuit such as the one that the city of Cleveland had to, they agreed to pay a Gregory Johnson $225,000 to settle a claim that officers retaliated against him for an exercise of free expression, which was burning a flag at a protest. So I will be voting in favor of this because I don't see any reason for us to expose ourselves to any liability.
Anyone else on the question?
Yes, on the question, we did get some sort of an answer. I think I asked to justify this this ordinance, and the answer that I got, although they said it was trying to shore up the legislation so that we were in compliance, I really didn't feel that the answer, I guess, I wasn't satisfied with the answer, so I will be voting no.
Anyone else?
On the question, as was mentioned earlier, I did express concerns with this legislation previously, which is why I voted no for it, in reference to burning flags for protests and how protests sometimes happen without that notice. And we did receive additional information from the law department that I really would have preferred to have prior to that vote, because that would have then changed my vote, which is one of the reasons that I would be voting on it today. And I do agree that it would put us at a liability based on the legal advice that we had been given, and that we were informed that it would be a specific time, having specific places that, a specific time that this could take place. And additionally, it also has to deal with public safety. So there have been other times where there are ceremonies where the flags are burned and the fire department is notified, and a firefighter would go to that to just make sure that everyone is safe while that's taking place, and that no one's harmed with that burning. So, I feel like for me, the public safety piece is important, and makes more sense as to why this was brought forward. So that's all I have to say on that.
Anybody else?
On the question, based on the information we received from our Assistant City Solicitor, I will be voting in favor of this evening.
Okay, on the question. So this has been brought forward to us twice. I don't like how it came down the second time. I can't speak too much about why, because it was a discussion in the back room. All right, but my opinion hasn't changed from the first time it was introduced to the second time it was introduced. I would never burn a flag. Are you kidding me? But I don't believe, I think this puts us more at liability, making someone make a reservation, fill out forms to protest, to burn something. Maybe not the American flag, maybe another flag, whatever. So I think, I don't agree with the legal department saying that this makes it better for freedom of speech. I disagree. I can't vote yes for this because I worry about legal ramifications down the road. So with that, I'm definitely voting no again. I'm sticking to my no. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No. The ayes have it and so moved.
So I make a motion to suspend the rules to move item 6A to 7th order for final passage.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to move 6A to 7th order for final passage. On the question, on the question. We've already been down there. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No. The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed at Council Number 76, 2023, establishing a no right turn from North Main Avenue to Pond Avenue, no left turn for trucks from Pond Avenue to North Main Avenue, separate the intersection of Pond Avenue and Dean Street via line striping to improve traffic operations and safety.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, filed at Council Number 77, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an intergovernment agreement of cooperation by and between the City of Scranton and the Scranton School District for the creation and employment of the Shared Community Development Coordinator position.
As Vice Chairman for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, filed at Council Number 78, 2023, revising traffic patterns on Marion Street to one-way traffic westbound from Wyoming Avenue to Penn Avenue, revising traffic patterns on Marion Street to one-way traffic eastbound from Wyoming Avenue to North Washington Avenue, restricting eastbound Marion Street traffic approaching North Washington Avenue to right turns only, and restricting westbound Marion Street traffic approaching North Washington Avenue to right turns only for vehicular and pedestrian safety.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed at Council Number 79, 2023, ratifying the execution of time-sensitive temporary construction easement agreements between affected City of Scranton property owners and the City of Scranton to complete the Federal Emergency Management Agency projects in accordance with FEMA debris removal construction plans, which are to be completed by the deadline of December 31st, 2023, as amended.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7D as amended.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, a couple things to point out here. These projects come from the 2018 flood situation that we had with excessive rains that year. The word time sensitive was used. These projects go back to 2018. We did get an extension this year, so The time sensitivity they're talking about is during council break. I'm going to recommend that the administration start getting these things to council in a timely manner. I'm not going to hold this up because these people have been waiting, especially the two that are on here today. But Mr. Voldenberg, can we ask how many of these projects are left? Because the deadline is December of this year.
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7D as amended legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 274, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Pensy Supply, Inc. to provide paving services for the city of Scranton for the fall of 2023 through the spring of 2024.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7E is legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 275, 2023, reappointment of Reverend Rebecca Barnes, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Scranton Human Relations Commission. Reverend Barnes' 5-year term will begin August 25, 2023, and expire August 31st, 2028.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 276, 2023, reappointment of Karen Bazzari, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Scranton Library Authority. Karen Bazzari's 4-year term will begin July 31st, 2023, and will expire July 31st, 2027.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7G.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7G legally and lawfully adopted.
7H for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 277, 2023, reappointment of Barbara O'Malley, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority. Barbara O'Malley's 5-year term will begin August 23rd, 2023, and will expire August 31st, 2028.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7H.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7H legally and lawfully adopted.
7I for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 278, 2023, reappointment of Ann Salerno, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Scranton Library Authority. Ann Salerno's 4-year term will begin July 31st, 2023, and will expire July 31st, 2027.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7I.
Second.
On the question? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7I legally and lawfully adopted.
7J for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 279, 2023, reappointment of Aja Wentham, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the Scranton Human Relations Commission. Aja Wentham's 5-year term will begin August 25th, 2023, and will expire August 31st, 2028.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7J.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7J legally and lawfully adopted.
7K for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for Adoption, Resolution Number 280, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Mufflehun to perform community health and safety landscape analysis for the city of Scranton.
As Vice Chairperson for this Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7J.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jesus, I'm sorry. All right. What is the recommendation of the Chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety? I lost my...
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7K.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, what I've gotten out of this after I read, I guess it's about 170 pages long, but most of it was about the bidding. But this is basically an analysis to advise the city and OECD and the police department on gang activity in our city and how to deal with it and its long-term effects it will have on our city. From everything I've learned about this and speaking with the chief, Gerald, today, it seems that the last resort seems to be to throw everything onto the lap of the police department. Our police officers are not counselors and they're not therapists, and nor are they trained to handle this type of therapy that these people may need. Our police department has been doing a great job to date, but it should not be all their responsibility all the time. So I hope this analysis is going to identify what organizations that are available, what help is available, and really what pieces are we missing to complete this and make us maybe pursue a better way to inform our children. It seems our kids today, even before they reach middle school, are already involved in gang activities. So we need to do better at reaching them before they actually get involved with gangs. So I believe this analysis will provide us with this information. So I will be in favor of this resolution.
Anyone else?
On the question, so I brought it up when this was originally in fifth order. So with the ARPA money, $500,000 was allocated for mental health services. $100,000 was directed towards this project, I guess, if you will, and it's going to be about $70,000 of that $100,000 that's going to be spent. Now, I am under the impression that the motion to receive a copy of this company's initial report passed. Am I correct on that one?
Correct.
Okay. So that study came out to the city in August of 22. I've looked at, there was a House subcommittee that spoke to this group, and they went on to say that this study was provided to the city and that they worked with the city to co-develop the plan that came out of this study. This was news to me as I only saw it last week. But with it being said that we have requested this document, I would like to make a motion to table to fully review this study before we move with spending this $70,000 of mental health funding on this threat assessment. So I make a motion to table.
Second. On the question? All those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those that don't?
No.
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 All right, well, I'm just going to say I do feel that's a mistake. This was a perfect opportunity to take a look at this company's work to see if it was something that we wanted to move forward with. So I feel sorry that we lost out on a total review of this company's services.
Okay, so anybody else on the question?
On the question on this piece of legislation, this was also part of the conversation that we had with Chief Carroll earlier, and I believe there was someone who mentioned it during citizens' participation tonight too, as to what he thought about this or what they could be doing better to address crime in the city and gang activity. And he believes that this is one of the ways that they can do that, and that this would be helpful and resourceful to them and to the police department. I think it's easy to just say, well, why can't they just do the work, and why do we need a contractor? But sometimes it's just not possible with maybe the capacity that you have, or needing some further expertise on it. So yeah, I'm in favor of this contract. I think that if we want to work on crime in the city, I think this is one step and one way that we could be able to do that, and I'm supportive of it.
Also on the question, it was mentioned tonight in public comment that government should be conducted in public and not in secret. I did request this document over a week ago. It has not been provided to me. I guess it appears that others have met to review the document. It was said that it was 170 pages. I'm not sure if all those pages have been reviewed, but again, I would like to say I would have liked to have reviewed this company's work prior to me agreeing to this contract.
Okay, so on the question, so how are we supposed to make an informed decision on a new contract with this company where they won't show us what they did a year ago, their performance, what they actually did? How do we make an informed decision based on information they won't give us, all right? Secondly, I have an issue with that, of course, but secondly, we have a very competent, professional police department. One of the best in the Commonwealth, right? Bar none, right? So, and also, in addition to that, during the primary election, the Times posed questions to candidates and said, what's the biggest issue facing the city? So I was like, blight and crime at this time. And what would you do to try to rectify it? So my response was, okay, there's gang activity. We all know it's here. My response was, we need the police department and the state police to develop a task force, work in tandem to address the gang issue and the increased crime. I don't need to throw money at another consultant from Washington. Now they're calling it analysis. Everything else was called studies. So studies keep coming down. So they don't want to use the word study anymore. But that money could be spent somewhere else. And since that they would not allow us to see their past performance last year on their other analysis of the study, I took a peek at the company. Right? Their focus, and that's scary. Then I didn't see the word gang mentioned anywhere in any of the work they do. What I did see was their focus is domestic terrorism, extremist behavior. I don't think that's a problem here. There is a problem with gangs. I believe the police, in tandem with the task force, with the state police, but laser beam focus, could handle this here. I want to rely on expertise within the area. Every time there's a problem, we have to get consultants, we have to get studies, we have to send all of this work out to other states, other cities, pretty soon it'll be countries. So with that said, I'm definitely voting no for this.
Okay. On the question, I will be supporting this evening because our police chief absolutely supports this, and I have the utmost faith in our police chief.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Sorry, one
sorry.
question. Also with my request of that initial report or assessment was I wanted to see some of the recommendations that came out of that. What happens here and what was in the backup documentation on this is they're going to make recommendations. Most of these recommendations are probably going to be with outside agencies that are not under the city's purview. They're agencies that are not employed by the city. So I would have liked to have seen some of the examples of these recommendations to see if these are things that could have been done and could have been followed through on. My fear here is that we spend money on a project that we cannot enforce the recommendations. But I just wanted to see examples of previous recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No. Motion passes.
7L for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 281, 2023, authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Works of the City of Scranton to sign and submit the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation application for traffic signal approval for traffic signal at Cherry Street and Schimpf Court associated with Scranton Counseling Center to further improve the safety of pedestrian crossing.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7L.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes. I hereby declare 7L legally and lawfully adopted.
7M, formerly 6A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, filed to Council Number 80, 2023, amending the city's open burn prohibition to explicitly allow an exception for public demonstration under certain conditions.
I'm sorry, wait. For consideration, I lost my place here. So this is after it's read. Dr. Rothchild.
As Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7M.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No. I hereby declare item 7M legally and lawfully adopted.
7N, previously tabled, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, filed to Council Number 62, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement the HUD 2023 Annual Action Plan for Community Planning and Development Programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program, Home Investment Partnership Home Program, and Emergency Solutions Grants ESG program for the period beginning January 1st, 2023.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As Chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7N.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
8th Order 8A, filed to Council Number 64, 2023.
This ordinance is creating overtime reporting requirements for all city departments and employees. It has been tabled until we receive additional information from the administration. Council will recess for the month of August, and meetings will resume on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is ended.